Meet new people and express your true self. Play IMVU and you can customize your avatar and world to your tastes. In this virtual universe, you can choose from over 54 million items and join in on over 300,000 chat rooms. Create your unique style and show it off to millions of IMVU users around the world. Come find your community on IMVU, whether that be friends or more. Dress, play, connect. Download IMVU from the App Store or Google Play today.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So while this administration is looking at what our kids are eating, what the SNAP benefits are covering in terms of junk food, the presidential fitness test, bringing that back for kids to have certain metrics and goals for athletics and activity. And then, as I've always said, hopefully there's a remediation part of it to help get kids into shape for those who don't or are walking the whole mile. We also need to look at another factor that could be affecting their health, and that's their screen time. Now, we know that being on computers and being in front of a TV or looking at phones is not helpful. But how unhelpful and how dangerous is it to these kids' health? So we have a study that was published in the Journal of American Heart Association, and the research found that 10 and 18-year-olds who spent more time on devices like phones, televisions, computers, game consoles were at higher risk for cardiometabolic diseases like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and insulin resistance. The study looked at 2 Danish studies of more than 1,000 participants. They gave a score to each participant representing the risk of the diseases compared to the average risk of the group. An extra hour of screen time increased the patient's overall risk by about 0.08 standard deviations in 10-year-olds and by 0.13 standard deviations in 18-year-olds. And according to lead author David Horner, who's a researcher at the University of Copenhagen in Denmark, he says it's a small change per hour, but when screen time accumulates to 3, 5, or even 6 hours a day, as we saw in many adolescents, that adds up. They say researchers found that 18-year-olds were on their devices about 6 hours a day on average. 10-year-olds average 3 hours a day. There is no reason a 10-year-old should be on a screen for 3 hours a day. This is beyond school. That makes no sense. You should be playing. They should be climbing things, throwing balls, riding bikes. They need to be out and about. They should be doing chores. You know, give them a broom. They found sleep impacted the results, with both less sleep and later bedtimes amplifying the relationship between screen time and heart health risks. This suggests screen time may harm health by stealing time from sleep. So these are observational studies. It's not that they took a bunch of kids saying, we're going to give you the phones and now we're going to see what's going on with your heart. So it is associative where they're seeing what relative changes or what they can project based on current activity. But I am seeing a lot of 20-year-olds now with high blood pressure, with diabetes. I'm seeing a lot of issues that you really shouldn't be seeing in 20-year-olds, young adults, and we are. And some of them aren't even obese. Because, we've been really attacking how we, address our health by the obesity, which is huge. Once we curbed smoking, and we did a great job, we still have work to do, but once we really limited smoking, we started to find that people were gaining more weight. So the obesity epidemic grew as we got smoking down, because people would use their cigarettes to keep their weight down, Virginia Slims, all of that. But the obesity factor, we can't just look at obese people and say, well, they are the ones we have to focus on for their heart health. We also have slender individuals. You could have a slender 10-year-old or an 18-year-old be at risk for high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease. Heart attacks happen in skinny people too. So why is that? Is it the stress? Yeah, I mean, I used to play outside, and I got bullied, and there was stress with that. But is there a stress factor with what we're seeing with these phones and screen time? Is it that your body doesn't want to always sit still? Is it that you're not necessarily taking on good habits because of what you're exposed to online? So, with me, if I see a bunch of kids running as a kid, I ran with them. That's just what you do. Now you're seeing people sit there making, videos and hand gestures and all that. Where's the mimicry that kids do? And 18-year-olds should have some of the best hearts. Now, they did studies, I believe they were Vietnam vets, maybe also World War II vets, where they looked at those who deceased and they looked at their coronary arteries, and they found that even young 18-year-olds could have coronary artery disease. But we as parents don't think about that. See, I did. I had my kids. I remember there was, by the way, about 15 years ago, there was a recommendation that kids between 2 and 10 years old get a cholesterol test done to see if they have high cholesterol already in that age range. Now, it didn't go viral. A lot of people didn't take the advice. I forget if it was the American Heart Association. I have to look that up, where they suggested if high cholesterol is in the family, if heart disease is in the family, check your kid's cholesterol, a one-time screen between age 2 and 10. And I remember checking the cholesterol of one of my both kids, and one of them was starting to be above normal. And I got on them lickety split. I was like, no way. You are not going to have high cholesterol as a kid. But what are kids eating? Happy Meals, French fries, chicken fingers, pizza with cheese on it. Of course they're going to start having high cholesterol. Now, my kids, luckily, were not big video game players. They did play, but they were outside a lot. We had them in sports. They swam. They ran around. They might have played around with a little bit of Nintendo or Game Boy or whatever the heck, but we really limited it. But now here we are looking at the health of our kids, and we're seeing a bunch of 20-year-olds that are now at higher cancer risk, higher heart disease risk, diabetes. I should not be seeing 20-year-olds on high blood pressure medicine, but we are. And it's starting to become the norm. And yes, we do have medication. It's nice that we have high blood pressure medication and diabetes medication, but we don't want somebody to get to that point. So let's look at our kids. Let's look at what we're doing with their screen time. I agree we need to be aggressive about this. In terms of banning cell phones in school, I'm mixed, because I think kids do need to be able to call the police if there's a shooter, and they should be able to have access, and parents have access to their kids. But you know how you have to put your bag away, right? You have to put things away. You could easily have kids put them away. You don't have to necessarily not allow them to come onto the campus. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Meet new people and express your true self. Play I Am VU, and you can customize your avatar and world to your tastes. In this virtual universe, you can choose from over 54 million items and join in on over 300,000 chat rooms. Create your unique style and show it off to millions of IMVU users around the world. Come find your community on IMVU, whether that be friends or more. Dress, play, connect. Download IMVU from the App Store or Google Play today.
Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
Meet new people and express your true self. Play I Am VU, and you can customize your avatar and world to your tastes. In this virtual universe, you can choose from over 54 million items and join in on over 300,000 chat rooms. Create your unique style and show it off to millions of IMVU users around the world. Come find your community on IMVU, whether that be friends or more. Dress, play, connect. Download IMVU from the App Store or Google Play today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So we have a little bit more information on the shooting in Fort Stewart in Georgia. 5 soldiers were shot at Fort Stewart in Georgia, according to Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield. The shooter has been apprehended and is no longer a threat. Now, Fort Stewart trains and deploys active and reserve Army units. Is home to the 3rd Infantry Division. Is about 40 miles southwest of Savannah. This is being reported by CNN. 3 nearby schools continue to be on lockdown. It's a soft lockdown out of an abundance of caution. The Button Gwinnett Elementary, Joseph Martin Elementary, and Snelson Golden Middle Schools. Although, interestingly, this was the first day the kids were able to go back to school. Their school year started today. Officials at the military base say there is no longer an active threat. Shooter has been apprehended. We are going to keep you posted. But from what we understand, law enforcement was notified right before 11 a.m. that there was a possible shooting. Then, within 6 minutes, the base was locked down. 3 minutes later, at 11:09 a.m., emergency personnel was sent to treat at least 5 soldiers who were shot. The shooter was apprehended, and then by noon, the lockdown of the main containment or cantonment, I think that's a typo, was lifted. So we'll keep you posted. I do not know the status. We are being told multiple casualties, but I do not have any information on the victims. So we will keep you posted as soon as we get them. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. Also making headlines is Trump raising tariffs on Indian goods to 50% because India decided to say, you know what, we are still going to work with Russia, despite everything going on with Ukraine. And so India's economy might now take a multi-billion-dollar hit as President Donald Trump is raising tariffs on Indian goods to 50%. This is even higher than the tariffs he has levied on China. It's one of the highest levies of any trading partner. Why? Because India has said they are going to continue to work with Russia in oil. and consume their oil. Trump had previously imposed tariffs of 25% on Indian goods due to their high trade barriers and what they were charging us. And they say only 20% of India's good exports, or 2% of GDP, come to the U.S., but certain sectors are exposed. So gems, jewelry, apparel, textiles, and chemicals. The new tariffs are set to go into effect in 21 days. And so we'll see what happens with that. I keep hearing this back and forth. These tariffs are going to hurt Americans. They're going to hurt Americans. I'm really mixed on that, because if the tariff is supposed to be on the company that wants to send the product to us, yes, most likely the company is going to raise that price. But if they raise their prices and Americans and consumers are able to get, shall we say, like, we don't need to get Indian gems. We could buy gems. I'm not in the gem buying business, but not looking for one. But if I did, if I see that somebody's price is now hiked up, I'm not going to buy it. So I really think this pass on tariff pricing to Americans is not going to be as robust as people think. America needs to be less reliant on these other countries. And so, is jewelry going to be more expensive? The average person is not buying jewelry. We could buy our clothes from other countries. And so I don't think India is going to necessarily add a 50%. I don't think they're going to do that. And I appreciate what Trump is trying to do, keeping American soldiers out of the Russia-Ukraine war. What Trump does, which I think is something that all presidents should do, is get all these other countries and their leaders off their butts. Either by helping out NATO or the World Health Organization or UN, or putting money where their mouth is, and not just relying on America. And Trump is like, why should we be the ones that have to stop the war? Why should we be the ones trying to get the hostages out of? Do you see any other country trying to get the hostages out of Hamas control in Gaza? Why is it always America? So Trump, as it pertains to the Putin-Ukraine war, if India is going to continue to work with Russia, then they're not on Trump's good side. Some people will disagree, saying we shouldn't start going into an economic battle with India over this, but the Russia-Ukraine war hurts all of us. And the more people that jump in and tell Russia we're not going to be putting up with this BS, you're done, the better. And the quicker this might come to an end. India has responded to Trump's tariff escalation, defending its purchases of Russian oil. They say we have already made clear our position on these issues, including the fact that our imports are based on market factors and done with the overall objective of ensuring the energy security of 1.4 billion people of India. They say it is therefore extremely unfortunate that the U.S. should choose to impose additional tariffs on India for actions that several other countries are also taking in their own national interest. So India is saying, sorry, we need Russia. And Russia gets more powerful. Look at China. I'm hearing doctors all upset at what Trump is doing with China, say, but we get our medicines from China. Well, then we need to get cracking and manufacture our own medicines here. We don't need the natural resources of China to make our medications. We could do that here. But we become reliant, and we got lazy, and we got complacent. And I think we need to rethink things from a global perspective on who we're going to allow to have this control. Now, I know what the world is thinking now is, how do we limit Trump's control? But I think we all see what a dangerous, precarious position we're in. If countries run out of money to give Ukraine, or they run out of votes wanting to support Ukraine, Russia moves in. If Russia gains more power, they could continue to do the mayhem they want to. And if these other countries are bending the knee because they need what Russia has to offer. I mean, it's not our job to make India independent of Russia, but if they have choices, Trump's testing those. So we'll see what happens. They say the top goods also the U.S. received from India were pharmaceuticals, communications equipment, smartphones, and apparel. Now, pharmaceuticals, this is something that, yes, I have seen some of our pharmaceuticals come from India. We get them also from Mexico. We get a lot of them from China. We should very, very easily be able to get these pharmaceuticals more independent from other countries. I am getting a little bit more of an update back on the shooting. We are being told that 5 soldiers have been taken to the hospital. Now, that might imply that we do not have casualties, although initial reports said there were multiple casualties that happened with the shooting at Fort Stewart. The fact that there are 5 individuals going to the hospital, it might be a good sign that they're still alive. The suspect is in custody. He did not turn a gun on himself. We're getting a little bit more information. The soldiers were shot in the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team area. Law enforcement was dispatched at 10:56 a.m., and the suspected shooter was apprehended at 11:35 a.m. We are waiting for reports on who the shooter was, what their motive was, like what we saw with Fort Bragg. How could somebody get in and shoot, or was it somebody already there within the gates? If you ever try to get onto these Army bases or Air Force bases, it's pretty difficult. And then what caused somebody to decide to start shooting? Fort Stewart provides support and services to approximately 15,000 active duty soldiers, 16,000 family members of active duty service members, and thousands of military retirees and contractors. Governor Brian Kemp announced on X that his office remains in close contact with law enforcement on the ground. Governor Kemp says, Marty, the girls and I are saddened by today's tragedy of Fort Stewart. We are keeping the victims, their families, and all of those who answer the call to serve in our hearts and prayers. And we ask that Georgians everywhere do the same. We need to do a better job of protecting our soldiers. These shootings at Army bases or Air Force bases are happening too many times. And I'm sure we're going to be hearing about, this might be somebody who has, mental illness, or there needs to be better screening then. We need to do a better job. This is uncalled for. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Meet new people and express your true self. Play I Am VU, and you can customize your avatar and world to your tastes. In this virtual universe, you can choose from over 54 million items and join in on over 300,000 chat rooms. Create your unique style and show it off to millions of IMVU users around the world. Come find your community on IMVU, whether that be friends or more. Dress, play, connect. Download IMVU from the App Store or Google Play today.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com.
Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Meet new people and express your true self. Play I Am VU, and you can customize your avatar and world to your tastes. In this virtual universe, You can choose from over 54 million items and join in on over 300,000 chat rooms. Create your unique style and show it off to millions of IMVU users around the world. Come find your community on IMVU, whether that be friends or more. Dress, play, connect. Download IMVU from the App Store or Google Play today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So also making headlines is RFK Jr. pulling $500 million in funding for vaccine development. And they are going to be canceling contracts and pulling funding for some of the vaccines that are being used for flu, COVID-19. And they made this announcement yesterday, saying 22 projects totaling $500 million to develop vaccines using mRNA technology are going to be halted. Now, this has caused a lot of criticism from the left, but some of us doctors are wanting to know, what are his concerns with the mRNA technology? Is he that he's halting so we can get a better grip on side effects? I like the idea of making sure before we mass mandate vaccines like we did with the COVID-19 vaccine, we could ensure that we know how safe it is, especially for pregnant women and young kids, etc. So I'd like to get a little bit more information. But from what we're understanding, he is looking at contracts, and he is not as much of a fan of some of the studies that are currently going on as it pertains to the mRNA technology. Kennedy said in a video that to replace the troubled mRNA programs, we are prioritizing the development of safer, broader vaccine strategies like whole virus vaccines and novel platforms that don't collapse when viruses mutate. Now, he's making a point. The mRNA technology is a fascinating one. But was it really an effective vaccine? I do believe the COVID vaccine saved lives. But what happened when there were newer strains? What really gave us immunity? Was it because many of us got sick anyway, despite the vaccine? But we weren't deathly sick? So we were able to fight, make immunity, make antibodies, and combine our natural immunity with the artificial vaccine immunity, and now become a little bit more resilient to COVID? I think it's a complex answer on how effective those vaccines were. I'm glad we had the vaccines. But are mRNA vaccine technology the panacea of all immunology later and pathogen protection? So how the mRNA vaccines worked was it told our cells DNA to do a job. A little liposome particle was able to protect the mRNA, the messenger RNA, allow it to get into the cell. The cell then told the foreman, look, you need to make, your cytoplasm needs to make mRNA. So they did it. And the mRNA, or the mRNA instructions, told that cell to make spike proteins. The cell did it. The spike proteins were then demonstrated on the cell surface. Our immune system could take a look at those spike proteins, go, oh, okay, we're learning this. All right, we're ready. So that when COVID came with a spike protein, we were able to already have some antibodies. It's a brilliant technology. The DNA vectored vaccines that came in like an adenovirus, like with the AstraZeneca or the Johnson & Johnson DNA vaccine, those told the DNA to make the mRNA, and then the mRNA told the cytoplasm to make the spike protein. So there was like an extra step with the DNA vectored ones, although the DNA vaccines didn't do as well from a safety profile. We had blood clot issues. So it's a powerful technology, but we are humbled by some of the side effects that could happen. And some of our vaccines that we have, such as the flu shot, the killed inactivated vaccine, or the live attenuated vaccines, have been doing pretty well. They're also cheaper to make. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Or do we use the newer technology? Well, the mRNA vaccine that came out was a new vaccine, but it was older technology. We've known about mRNA technology for a while. We've been using it in other aspects of medicine. But the public finally heard about it, and they got to see for their own how good an mRNA vaccine worked. For me, it did prevent my getting COVID 1 year when I got the booster, but I had side effects for a month. Thank God the side effects weren't too serious. I had left-sided chest pain, left-sided arm pain, swelling, breast swelling on the left side. I was like, what the hell is this? Had to put off my mammogram for 2 months. But I didn't get COVID that year. So RFK Jr. is saying, look, I know we're putting a bunch of money into mRNA vaccine technology and studies, but let's halt and reassess. I don't have a problem with that. We've had the live attenuated vaccines, which take a virus, lessen its pathogenicity, weaken it, such as the MMR, the varicella. A patient gets it, does it, even our nasal spray flu vaccine, the nasal spray, not the shot. The patient gets it, starts to make antibodies to a weakened form that doesn't make them sick. And they go, wow, all right, this is great. I can now fight disease. The inactivated or killed vaccine is where you have a virus that basically is dead, but it has the wall and the protein structures, components. That's our flu vaccine, our hepatitis vaccine, our polio vaccine, the shots, where our body gets to see the outer casing of it. Now, Novavax, as it pertained to COVID, was working on something similar to that, where you had the little proteins, as opposed to your body having to make the proteins by manipulating mRNA and DNA. The Novavax was actually just about the proteins, and using that to induce an immune system. And the Novavax, I loved that. I loved the theory behind it. I just don't know how popular, because by then everybody was already taking Pfizer, Moderna, getting their vaccines. I think the mRNA technology is going to have a lot of uses, and I do believe that their vaccines could be effective. But if we are having some very, large concerns from the population about side effects and its safety, and they're a lot more expensive than the inactivated and the live attenuated, we do need to rethink if we are putting our resources where they need to be. Can we make a live attenuated or killed vaccine of COVID? I do believe we can make a live attenuated version, but the problem with COVID is it keeps mutating too quickly. And that was the issue with our mRNA vaccines. We had to, by the time we got the vaccine out, start working on something for a variant. In fact, I think even our testing, the virus is even escaping some of our testing, because people are testing negative at home, only to a few tests later finally show a positive. So while, people are mad at RFK Jr., I think him reevaluating and ensuring that these vaccine contracts, these millions of dollars going to mRNA vaccines, is going to result in safe vaccines. If he wants to look at that, I'm fine with that. But let's not stop progress. Let's still make sure we are working on vaccines for infectious disease like RSV, flu, COVID, etc. 1-877-DOC-DALI. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did, and just maybe someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I think there's still a standstill in Texas as it pertains to redrawing electoral boundaries. The Democratic legislators fled the state so there wouldn't be a quorum, so they wouldn't have to work and vote, which is a problem because if taxpayers are paying for them to be in session and do their work, going on vacation or running and hiding in Illinois or Indiana or wherever they went, is obviously going to put them in some hot water for not doing their job when taxpayers gave them money to do their job. But this move would flip 5 seats to Republicans away from Democrats next year. And this gerrymandering, which, as I said, started with, I believe it was a Governor Jerry back in the 1800s, where they redrew a map and it looked like a salamander back in 1812. And so that's where you get the gerrymandering from. And so whichever party is in power in the state legislature can then draw their boundaries to maximize their seat count. In the 2024 elections, Republicans won 25 House races in Texas. Democrats took the other 13. And while other states have gerrymandered, Trump has suggested that now Texas do the same to give them 5 more seats. I personally would like to see it not as partisan. I think in Canada they use independent commissions to do this, but in the U.S., it is up to the states. The Constitution does empower states to control their election boundaries. And so as you see with Illinois, I mean, there's squiggly lines. And actually, fascinatingly, Stephen Colbert looks like he's starting to read the room. And he actually challenged Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker on the gerrymandering. And that was kind of interesting to see him. I'm not saying he's taking a side, but with Stephen Colbert losing his show, as people think it's because he's only trying to appeal to an audience that's anti-Trump, which isn't going to keep your show alive. He actually showed the congressional map of Illinois to Governor Pritzker, saying, look, that one district looked like the stinger on a scorpion. And he said, if you are considering doing a little more redrawing in Illinois, you already have some crazy districts in Illinois. He goes, take a look at this one, District 17 here. It does that, then it comes up here and it sneaks around there and goes all the way up here. Then it goes right over there like that. And he said, look at this one, kind of a goes whoop up there. And so Pritzker had, talked about further redrawing lines to benefit the Democrats once, this subject came out with Texas. But I'm just concerned that it's going to be an absolute mess. And I mean, look at in California, how there's so many Republicans that don't feel they have a voice based on the way the districts are drawn. And, and so I think there should be guidelines. I do agree that the states, should have control. I like less federal government. But, when a state is always controlled by one party, then, they can just increase power for that party. And you have a lot of individuals that want to have a say. I don't like the idea of red states, blue states, because that starts to lead us closer to a civil war or a secession or a breakdown of our republic. Where, well, if you live in this state, your vote will never count because we're always red. If you live in this state, your vote will never count because we're always blue. Just move. Well, no, nobody wants to leave California if they don't have to. Nobody wants to leave Texas. But I do find it fascinating that Colbert actually challenged J.D. Pritzker on this. He said, we've got to fight fire with fire. He says they frankly tossed the rule book out and they're acting in an unconstitutional fashion. So who did this first? Well, I think it happened first in Massachusetts back in 1812. But now, as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see all the states stop. But if these states have been doing it for years, then what's to stop any more states from doing it? And if redrawing congressional maps and congressional districts is something that all these states are doing, then is this going to happen every few years? So I do agree with Governor Abbott that the Democrats need to do their job. If they are paid to be there and they are fleeing and not coming to sessions, then they should be removed. Even if you think your vote, because what they're trying to do is stall the vote. If the Democrat legislators aren't there, there's not a quorum, so nothing gets done. But unfortunately, that doesn't help the state. There were rules on abortion and things like that, and the legislatures were still there to do their votes. So make it a stand on this. I don't know what stands Republicans made when there was gerrymandering in other states. Illinois sends 17 members to the House. Only 3 of them are Republicans. In 2024, President Trump received 43.3% of the Illinois vote, suggesting that a map that was more fair would have added 7 GOP House members. So, this is something that both sides are doing. And I just don't like Americans not having a voice. I keep hearing people say, let's get rid of the Electoral College. No, for the love of the Lord, do not get rid of the Electoral College. If you do, and you just base it on popular vote, then New York and California are going to run the all elections in the future. Iowa should have an equal say. Kentucky should have an equal say. Alabama, Oregon, Colorado, as it pertains to a voice in the election. So, the games that people play, very interesting. Teamsters. It was historic to see Teamsters not endorse Kamala Harris. Teamsters President Sean O'Brien explained why Kamala Harris was the first Democratic presidential candidate the union didn't endorse since 1996. He recalled how Harris started by demanding an endorsement, only answered 4 of their 16 questions, and then said to them, listen, I'm going to win with you or without you. Now, this is being reported by Real Clear Politics. Sean O'Brien said, we got the majority of all the candidates in early, and the last three were Trump, Biden, and Harris. Trump came in probably January of 24 and then tried to get Biden in after that. He said it was dealing with the staff. They were offended that we would expect him to go through the process. He says they were pissed off at that. They were offended that we asked them. Now, I think the Teamsters has every right to vet the candidate they want to support. Well, apparently they got blowback. Then they got Harris in there, and she was appalled that we would even ask her to come in. So cockiness doesn't work. It's interesting. You see these candidates almost grovel for votes, and then they get cocky after the election. But you don't really get cocky before that. And her thinking that she's going to win with or without Teamsters, she was wrong. And, I think the vetting process is important. So we're going to see what happens. We're coming up on midterms, the midterm elections. The whole rat race is going to start within 6 months, and if not already. And I'd like to take a breather from elections, but unfortunately, not going to happen. And the House is going to be tight. Will the Democrats flip it, or will the Republicans be able to keep it? What I do recommend you do is you make sure you listen to your constituents. Make sure your constituents are getting what they want. Make sure constituents feel they have a vote, feel they have a say, whether they're right, left, Democrat, Republican, independent. And don't get cocky. And let somebody vet you. Let them ask the questions. Because if you don't answer them, that's probably a no vote. 1-877-Doc-Daliah.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.